Hey, real quick, before we dive into today's episode, if you've been feeling like your brand needs a little love, but you're not quite sure where to start, I have just the tool you need. The Standout Brand Audit Bot is an AI-powered guided audit that shows you exactly what's working, what's not, and how to strengthen your brand using my proven Standout brand system. In 10 minutes or less, you'll walk away with clear next steps to move your brand forward with purpose. It's completely free. Just head to the show notes to grab the link and get started. I don't know about you, but when we switch over to New Year's, I create a new income and expenses spreadsheet and it looks like a clean slate to me. And I'm like, oh, what do I want to invest in this year? Investing in your business is something that I talk about a lot on this podcast. One of my most popular episodes has been my best and worst business investments. You guys really love hearing behind the scenes. And I see a lot of conversation, particularly on Threads, about what people are spending money on in their business, what they regret spending money on in their business. So we're going to have a conversation around that today. I invited two of my friends, Jenn Green and Maddy Aucoin, on to share their best and worst investments they've made in their business. And we're going to talk about not only what their best and worst investments were, but what we can learn from them. Welcome to the Six Figure Brand Podcast, where each week we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to build a six-figure business as an online service provider. I'm your host, Morgan. I'm a branding expert, online agency owner, mom of two, and military spouse, and I'm obsessed with helping entrepreneurs like you understand the ins and outs of branding so that you can use it to grow your business without sacrificing your sanity. Whether you're just starting out or focused on scaling, we're diving into everything you need to build a profitable and sustainable online business. Let's get to it. Well, first, I want to read you some of the responses and the themes that I got when I posted that initial thread looking for people to contribute to this episode, because it is still one of my most popular threads yet. And I will link it in the show notes if you want to go through and read every single response. But my prompt was, what are the best and worst investments you've made in your business? The juicier, the better. And just scrolling through quickly, I'm seeing a recurring theme of shiny object syndrome. So one person said a fragment of a system that was shiny at the time, but I learned having one piece for the puzzle is not the same as investing in a solution. That person said that their best investment was the relationships they're building, investing a ton of time and energy into strengthening core relationships with members, partners, event organizers, etc. One person, I thought this was funny, said best investment was the right team, worst investment was the wrong team. There was also a couple of people who said best investment was good business coaching, worst investment was bad business coaching. I think we've all been there. Another person said best is a specific membership that they named. Worst is another specific membership that they did not name. A couple of people said the best was their accountant or their bookkeeper or their tax person. And then the last one I'm going to read you guys is last year I invested in the services of a cold outreach strategist where she would teach me how to do cold outreach in a warm, not spammy way. It was the worst and I so overpaid. My best business investment was probably Dubsado because I saved so much time on client onboarding now. So I'll let you stalk that thread and read all of the responses if you feel really curious and nosy. I know I would be. But I want to get into our guests, Jenn and Maddy's stories about best and worst business investments because I think there's really a lot that we can learn from them, not only from their very specific best and worst investments, but from what they've learned in the way that they choose how to invest in their business. So let's dive in. First, we're going to hear from Jenn Green. Jenn is a funnel strategist and copywriter. So first, I asked Jenn to tell us about her worst business investment she's ever made.
The worst investment I ever made in my business was hiring a marketing agency. I didn't hire someone off the street. This person was really well known in women-led online business circles, had a huge trust factor, and unfortunately, everything went downhill. They sent me the wrong copy for my funnel. They had bad ratios for my ad videos. They forgot to add a limit to my ad account, and I ended up with a $1,700 bill at the end of the weekend before I could get a hold of their emergency line to turn everything off. It was truly devastating. It cost me $15,000, and it took a long time for me to heal from that situation because I stopped trusting my choices and my decisions around the investments that I made in my business, and I just kind of locked everything down. What should have helped me grow actually shrunk my business by quite a bit and left me in a hefty chunk of debt at the end.
So I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that I hate to hear this as a brand and marketing agency owner. But unfortunately, it's not that uncommon to hear horror stories of people who say, I hired this marketing agency and they were supposed to be really great and they had lots of great reviews and they were very well known and they just didn't deliver. As Jenn said, it sounds like in her case, this makes me so sad for her because it sounds like in her case, quite literally everything that could have gone wrong did. And I do think that Jenn's is obviously an extreme case, but it's also a good warning that when we're hiring people on the internet, no matter how much research you think you've done, how much trust they've built up, you don't always know what you're going to get and things can go really sideways, which is a good lesson in the importance of having rock solid contracts and also of vetting your people first. So if possible, I'm always a big fan of working with somebody in like a small bite capacity before you invest in, the $10,000, $15,000 service. If Jenn could have had the option to do maybe like a smaller audit or one lower ticket project with them, maybe she would have seen those red flags and not gone down this rabbit hole. But then again, if this is what that agency's business practices are like, maybe there's a reason why they don't offer that. And as Jenn said, experiences like that can leave us really jaded and can make it really hard for us to trust again, frankly, which really affects your business in the long term whenever now every time you need to hire somebody, you feel like you have to do all of this extra work because you're nervous that you're going to get burned again. So that's really unfortunate. I'm glad to hear that Jenn has kind of came through the other side of that. And I'm excited to hear what her best business investment has been.
The best investment I ever made was to hire my husband. Basically, what I did was say, hey, every time that you go to work for, 8 hours plus commute, 10 hours a day, our family is losing money because my hourly is higher than yours. So what if you stopped going to work and you became the default parent of our family and I had time and space to actually grow my business? And that's exactly what happened. My husband is happier. My kid is happier. My business has grown exponentially since he's been able to take over that default role. And on top of that, we have moved our entire lives to Mexico because we have the freedom of myself running my own business and my husband not being tied down by a 9-to-5. So in the end, an investment that most people wouldn't have made or a decision that many families maybe can't make ended up being the absolute best investment I could have made in my business.
So I love this one. For a while there, this was a huge topic of conversation of, everyone's retiring their husbands. And so I appreciate Jenn's more real practical look at what this looks like. And I also think it's a good reminder of us to think out of the box when it comes to investing in our business. We think when we start to get overwhelmed or too busy or whatever that we need to outsource things. And our first thought is, what can we outsource in our business? Can we outsource our social media or our bookkeeping or our website designer, our copywriting or whatever? And yes, that's great, but also you could outsource things in your personal life that would free up time that you could be working. And maybe working is what you would rather be doing. I've talked on some other episodes about outsourcing things like childcare or having your house cleaned or even just using like grocery pickup or delivery. Those count as outsourcing too. I'm not saying they're business investments as far as like if you get to write them off on your taxes or not. Talk to your CPA about that. But investing in your business does not necessarily have to look like buying something or hiring someone directly for your business. Sometimes it is investing in other areas of your life that free up space, either time-wise or brain space, so that you can focus on your business and continue to grow and make more money. So I love that for Jenn. I love that it's allowed her family to do something that many of us never could dream of doing, of moving to Mexico and having dad be the primary parent at home and Jenn get to really focus on her zone of genius. And I think that's such great encouragement to us to just really think out of the box when it comes to investing in our business. Next, we're going to hear from Maddy Aucoin. Maddy is a website copywriter and messaging strategist, and her best and worst investments are really, really interesting because they follow a theme that I've been seeing a lot on social media. And so I'm really excited to dig in. First, we're going to hear from Maddy on what her best business investments have been lately.
The best investments I've made recently in my business have been a data-backed marketing program and a branding program. And the reason I loved these so much is because I knew exactly what I was going to get from the program. And the promise of the program was that I would walk away with very specific things from the program. The promise of the programs wasn't about, making more money or something vague or generic. They were very focused and I knew exactly what I was going to walk away with. The other thing I really loved about these programs, and again, this was included in the marketing, is that I knew I would get a lot of support from the people who were running the programs, which was really important to me.
So I think the key here, and as somebody who has definitely fallen victim to the shiny object syndrome of buying courses and programs and masterminds even without maybe doing as much research as I should, or without looking at the data to see, like, is this a worthwhile investment? I think Maddy called it out perfectly here when she said, it was so crystal clear to me what I was going to get out of this program, and what I was going to get was something that I knew my business needed. So I love that clarity there of, yes, these were great programs, but the thing that made them great and the thing that made them work for me is the transparency, is the fact that the promise was so crystal clear and that they actually delivered on those. So if you're somebody who creates courses or programs or does group coaching, this is a really good reminder to you that even if you think that the promise or the transformation that your program offers is crystal clear, I bet you could make it even more crystal clear. And that would probably help you get more sales and probably help you have more happy clients. Now let's take a sec to hear from Maddy about what her worst business investments have been.
Some of the worst investments that I have made recently in my business have been unaligned communities and unaligned business events. And of course, you typically pay for these events or these communities, but it costs you more than just money. It costs time, it costs energy, and overall, there is a lot that goes into being part of communities and attending events. And networking is really important to me. I love meeting new people, whether it's online or in person. But I think there were a couple of things that I overlooked when deciding to be a part of these communities or sign up for these events. And the first is that the marketing is typically very generic, focusing a lot on things like being in the room, which of course it is important to meet new people and to connect with new people through your business. But it's really important that you are spending your time, energy, and money meeting people who are actually going to help your business. And so for me, moving forward, I'm not investing in any communities or events that are not specific in their marketing about what I'm specifically going to walk away from, and are also not specific about the kind of people that they will attract, because those are really important to me.
A huge proponent that relationship building is one of, if not the most important revenue drivers in your business. And I think Maddy would agree with me. I appreciate here that she points out that it's the unaligned communities and events that she feels like are her worst investment. And I think she's right that it's more than just how much does the ticket to the event cost or how much are the membership fees for the networking group. It's also the time and energy that you put in. And if you are trying to force things like this when they feel not aligned and thinking, oh, I just need to be in the room, I just need to show up. Yes, the advice to be in the room is sound. There's a reason why that exists. Putting yourself in spaces where the people that you want to work with are is a good idea. But if it starts to feel forced or it starts to feel unaligned or you're stretching yourself too thin, I think that that's a big red flag that maybe you should pull back. Maybe that's not the right event or it's not the right season. And that's okay. It's okay to not do what everyone else is doing. So I asked Maddy specifically, how did these experiences change the way that she's going to continue to invest in her business moving forward? And I really loved her answer. So here's what she had to say.
Overall, I've learned that I need to be a lot more discerning when I'm making investments into community and events this year. Of course, there is a monetary cost typically associated with networking or going to events in person or online, but there's also the cost of your time, your energy. Either way, you need to look cute. If you're going in person, you need to wear pants and shoes. So I am definitely considering those while I am making choices in what to invest in community and events-wise this year. I'm also going to be looking a lot more carefully at the marketing and how they talk about the event. I am someone who falls very deep to FOMO. If I see a business friend is going to something, I want to go to something. But this year, I am going to focus on the data and focus on the things and events that I know actually move the needle for me. And so I am going to be doubling down on the communities and events that work for me. And I am going to be staying at home or closing my computer if there are things that I know sound tempting but aren't actually going to work for me and my business.
So Maddy's big takeaway is that she needs to be a lot more discerning when it comes to where to invest in her business. And that is something that I deeply, deeply resonated with. I think when we're newer to business and we start seeing that first little bit of success, it's easy to just want to invest in everything because you're like, well, it's a business write-off and this is going to help me grow, and on and on and on and on. And there's all these ways to justify it. And then all of a sudden things can get a little out of control and either you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, where did all my money go? Or you've invested in all these things and you don't actually have the time to take advantage of them, so they're not doing anything for you. So I really appreciate Maddy's transparency there. And I also really related to what she said about having FOMO. As a mom of 2 young kids, it is hard to see all my business friends going to these events and traveling and going on mastermind retreats and all of these things. And I'm just like sitting over here on my couch in my pajamas, working with kids playing at my feet. But that's okay. That is my reality right now, and that will change someday. Maddy's advice of closing my laptop and enjoying being at home and trying to fight that FOMO, I think is a reminder that we really all need to hear. So I'm so grateful for both Jenn and Maddy for so openly and vulnerably sharing their best and worst business investments. And I think the big takeaways here are first and foremost to start thinking out of the box whenever it comes to business investments. Like Jenn said, her best investment in her business wasn't even directly in her business. 2, do your research before you hire a company. Ask for reviews, ask to do a test project, talk to some of their past clients. The unfortunate reality is that there are people who will take your money and not deliver. And that's a really crappy experience to go through. But I hope that listening to this normalizes the fact that it kind of does happen to all of us at one time or another, and it's not something that we need to feel ashamed about. And finally, don't let FOMO drive your decision making when it comes to business investments. I know we all want the shiny thing to do what everyone else is doing, but that's not a business strategy. Base your business investments on data of what is actually going to drive revenue, what is going to free up your time, what is going to get you to whatever that next goal is, and not what is the most shiny object or what all your friends are doing. So I would love to keep this conversation of best and worst business investments going. Like I said, I'm going to link that thread in the show notes. I would love for you to head there and add your best and worst business investments so that we can keep supporting each other, calling out what things are really great to invest in our business, and also normalizing the fact that sometimes we make investments that are kind of a bummer, and that's okay. That's just part of doing business. Thanks for tuning in to the 6-Figure Brand Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to rate the show and leave a review on whatever app you're listening on. And as a thank you, I'll send you coffee on me. Yes, I'm serious. As a smaller show for now, you taking the time to do this makes a huge impact on how we can reach more people and how I can continue to create this content for free. When you take a screenshot of your review, follow and tag me on Instagram at @SpectandCo. I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for any links or resources I mentioned during the episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week.